All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Libertarian Party of California Executive Committee meeting happening Monday, June 17th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I will officially call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Whenever the secretary is ready, he's welcome to call the roll.
I'm just going to check to make sure that I'm not muted. Okay, great. All right, we'll start with Mr. Alvstad, please.
Here.
Okay, and I'm here. Ms. Hallisey.
I'm here.
Mr. Butts. I don't think he's here. Ms. Stump. Thought I saw Ms. Stump.
Oh, she's not here. Oh, yeah, I didn't realize that she wasn't here. She'll hop on. If someone wants to ping her, if someone could ping Mr. Butts and Ms. Stump and then and let them know that we have started, that would be great. I've already texted Mr. Jimenez.
And Mr. Dean.
I am here.
Mr. Brown.
I'm here.
Mr. Byrd. Charles Byrd.
Could have sworn I saw him. Oh, there he is.
Present.
He might be. There he is.
Mr. Hartwig.
Here.
Mr. Jimenez is coming. Mr. Nichols.
Here.
Mr. Strachan. He's definitely here.
Yeah, I'm present.
Okay.
He just likes to make an entrance.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Mr. Cardin.
Here.
Yep. Mr. Apostolopoulos.
Here.
Okay, that completes the roll, Mr. Chair.
All right, so we will seat Mr. Cardin as first alternate for the vacancy that we currently have for the at-larges, and Mr. Apostolopoulos will be seated for Mr. Jimenez. I think he's the only at-large missing at the moment. Perfect. Okay. So for the record, before we get going here onto the next item, I will apologize again for my less than formal dress, I guess. I am still in New Mexico collecting signatures for the petition for ballot access here in New Mexico. So I have a polo representing the Libertarian on it, so it's good. And also for the record, I would like to say that I have refrained from sending Mr. Strachan any more Scotland Euro 2024 memes. And there are a lot that I came across, but I promised him that it would be the last one, the one that I tagged him on Twitter. They're hilarious.
I'm still celebrating the goal.
That's the spirit, sir. That's the spirit. I hope to catch a match in real time one of these days. I guess once we get out of the group stages, I'll probably be back home. Anyway, moving on. We will go to the next item on the agenda, which is the adoption of the agenda. The agenda was sent out yesterday. Apologies for the tardiness of that, but again, I'm here collecting signatures, so that is taking a toll. I will now entertain motions to adopt the agenda, assuming that there are no changes that need to be made.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
All right, moved by Ms. Halsey, seconded by Mr. Dean. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are there any objections to adopting the agenda as submitted last night? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. We have public comment, apologies. It is 10 minutes total, 2 minutes per comment. Anyone that wishes to give public comment, go ahead and raise your hand and we can call on you. Priority is given to the public, then to the executive committee. Does anyone wish to give public comment at this time? Going once, going twice. Nice, so much better than LNC meetings. All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, it's the approval of the June 11th, 2024 Executive Committee meeting minutes. The secretary sent them out earlier today. It wasn't much. I think there was just one thing. And let's go ahead for the record say that Ms. Stump has joined us at 7:08 p.m. Pacific time. There's Ms. Stump. Okay, so the secretary sent them out earlier today. They were pretty straightforward, well done as always. It was a very short meeting and only, I think, 2 items on the agenda. I will now entertain motions to approve the meeting minutes. Approve the meeting minutes from the June 11th, 2024 Executive Committee meeting, assuming that everyone read them.
I move that we approve the minutes.
All right, Mr. Dean has moved to approve the minutes from June 11th, 2024. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Strachan. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Is there any objection to the approval of the June 11th, 2024 Executive Committee meeting minutes? Going once, going twice. Awesome. The minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is accepting the resignation of the LNC Region 4 alternate. That would be Mr. Gary Alfstead. He emailed the LNC public list earlier today. He has some conflicts going on that prevent him from being able to continue to serve. Before we make a motion, if Mr. Alfstead would like to speak to it, he's welcome to. If not, we can go ahead and move to accept the resignation, or he can make the motion to accept the resignation after he speaks briefly on it, should he choose to.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for electing me to the position, and I'm sorry, but I need to be scaling back my my work life / party balance. Is going to be changing, and so I can no longer serve in the capacity. But anyway, so I'd like to make a motion then that we accept the resignation of the LNC Region 4 alternate.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Alfstead. And I will say, well, we'll get to that in discussion. So motion has been made to accept the resignation of the LNC Region 4 alternate. Is there a second?
Seconded with regret and thanks.
Seconded by Mr. Dean, for the record, with regret and thanks. Is there any discussion on this? I will just say that I appreciate him stepping up when we had the transition last time and running this time. And I will say that the vice chair is still doing stuff here in California. He is the chair of the recruitment committee. We'll get to that in a bit. And he is focusing his efforts here locally, which is fantastic. And he's always been my right-hand guy, which is fantastic, and someone that I could always count on. He has a huge shelf of participation trophies to show for it. So I actually have one that the LNC chair presented to you, but you had already left, classic participation trophy recipient. So we do have that for you. When I do see you at the in-person meeting, we will be presenting you with the participation trophy, as is your right and tradition from the esteemed LNC chair, Ms. McCardle. So that's it. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, for this, we'll go ahead and move to a roll call vote whenever the secretary is ready.
Okay. So we're voting to accept Mr. Alfstad's resignation.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Well, we'll start with Mr. Alfstad. I will vote yes. Ms. Hallisey
Yes.
and Mr. Butts is not here. Ms. Stump,
Aye.
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Mr. Hartwig,
Yes.
Mr. Jimenez, is he here now?
He is not yet. I haven't heard. He might still be stuck at work.
Okay. Then we'll go to Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Strachan,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Carden,
Yes.
and that so far is, we've just got one at-large missing. So I think it's just Mr. Carden then who's seated as an alternate.
We should have two. So we should have a vacancy by Mr. Alvarez. So that should be Mr.
Yes,
Carden. And then we should have Mr. Jimenez absent. So Mr. Apostolopoulos should be voting in his stead.
That's true. All right. So Mr. Apostolopoulos.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the vote is 13 to 0 to 0 to 0.
So in tradition of the great now Region 6 rep, Pat Ford, and because it's funny to me, the chair will vote no on this motion because I believe in conscription.
Of course.
but primarily because it's funny to me. So the motion does pass, regrettably, and I'm sorry, what was the final tally?
That's 13-1 to 0 to 0.
Mr. Sullivan, yeah, so 13-1 to 0 to 0. Mr. Sullivan's point is not well taken because anything that speaks ill of me is not well taken. Yeah, it is lucky number 13. There we go. All right. Well, thank you for your service, Mr. Alvstead, and we thank you for continuing your service here locally at the state level and doing the things that you're doing, which we'll talk about in just a minute. All right, next item on the agenda is, now that we have a vacancy for the Region 4 alternate, it is to appoint an LNC Region 4 alternate. Just as a reminder to everybody, again, the alternate just serves as the as the alternate to the Region 4 rep. The Region 4 rep is here, Miss Meredith Hayes. So now we will open nominations for LNC Region 4 rep. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Mr. Adrian F. Malagon.
All right, thank you. Miss Halsey laughed. I want the record to show that. I want that in the minutes.
You're coming back.
All right, I will accept the nomination if for nothing else for the lulz. Are there any other nominations for the LNC Region 4 alternate position?
I'll
Don't you
nominate
dare
Graham
nominate.
Brown.
Yeah.
Mr. Dean nominates Graham Brown. Mr. Brown, do you accept your nomination?
Should I accept this nomination? I guess, yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, sure, why not? So enthusiastic. Okay. Are there any other nominations for Region 4 alternate? Hearing none. Going once, going twice. Okay, nominations are closed. So I will defer to Mr. Brown first if you'd like to speak on his nomination.
No, I don't think I need to speak to it. Thanks.
He doesn't want it.
All right. Okay, I will speak to my nomination a bit. Well, thanks to the vice chair. Yes, this will not take away from my duties as chair of California. Being an alternate is easy peasy when you have a great Region 4 rep in Miss Hayes. It would just be to advise, and part of this would be to allow me access to executive session privileges that the LNC has, as far as a lot of the stuff that we're doing. And as chair, the Region 4 rep has to defer to, the chair for her region, which is me, for, votes or any controversial or substantial votes and all of that stuff. So it would be good to be in the know for a lot of this stuff and make sure that California's interests are protected on the LNC. And I have served as Region 4 rep and an at-large. So did I serve as alternate? I don't think I ever did. But anywho, that's it. So we can do this one of two. Mr. Sullivan's point. So I'll ask the parliamentarian if I may. Ms. Harlos.
Yes.
If there is do we have to do this by secret ballot, i.e. people messaging the secretary? I mean, that's as close as we can do it by secret ballot. Or can we do it by just hand raise, like call who wants what, or who wants to vote for who? What would be the appropriate way to handle this?
Normally it would be secret ballot unless you have something in your operations manual that requires all your votes to be public. I'm not as familiar with your OPM. I know the LNC, all votes are required to be public.
So yeah, there's nothing in our OPM that requires them to be public. So I guess the default would be private. Ms. Stump.
It would be unless nobody objects to having their votes.
Okay, we can do that.
I was about to make a motion that if nobody objects, we could do a hand-raising vote instead of secret ballot.
Yeah.
Okay,
If at
we
least
can
one
do that.
person objects, it has to be secret, though.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess I will ask the body at this time, is there any objection to doing this publicly and not by secret ballot, so by hand raise? All right, hearing none, we will go ahead and go to a vote then.
To keep it above board, shouldn't my motion be seconded?
Well, it wouldn't have to be well, I'll defer to the parliamentarian. Would it have to be a motion that's made, or could we just agree?
Well, I think you should do a motion since like the secrecy of the ballot is considered such like a holy thing.
Okay,
I
fair enough.
second.
All right, so Ms. Stump has made a motion to allow a public vote, so a non-secret ballot for the LNC Region 4 alternate position, seconded by Ms. Halsey. Is there any discussion? Moving to a vote, is there any objection? Hearing none, okay. So we'll do this. So anyone, all in favor of voting for Mr. Graham Brown as the Region 4 LNC alternate, I'm sorry, as the LNC Region 4 alternate, please raise your hand with the emoji. All right, so we have 3 recorded, 4. Okay. Anybody else? All right, hands down. All right, all in favor of appointing me to the LNC alternate position, please raise your hand. We're at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And you do have a comment in
8.
chat, name I can never pronounce.
Elizabeth Stump, you can't pronounce
No,
Elizabeth Stump?
pasta.
Oh, Apostolopoulos?
Yeah.
I don't see where to raise my hand.
Oh, Mr. Apostolopoulos, would you care to vocalize your vote?
I vote for you.
Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have it's 4 to 9. Are there any abstentions? So everyone hands down, sorry. Hands down, Vice Chair and Mr. Byrd. I will lower his hand. Okay, are there any expressed abstentions? I will expressly abstain, so I will, well, let's mark that for the record. So Mr. Brown, did you vote? Would you care to vote?
I did vote. I voted for you.
Oh. Okay, so then is it 10 to 4 to 1?
No, I raised my hand. I raised my hand. I assumed you counted it with the.
Oh, okay, so you did. Okay,
down.
that's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're at
9 to 4.
9 to 4 to 1. So that is a majority. So no, you can't. It's done now. So 9 to 4 to 1. So the motion, well, I guess so. My appointment to LNC Region 4 alternate is complete. All right. Thanks to those who voted for me, and to those that didn't, I remember who you are.
Is Miss Hayes going to be making the announcement?
Yes, Ms. Hayes, if you would be so kind as to make the announcement on the public list, I will have to have a meeting with the LNC secretary shortly after this meeting to go over some stuff for ballot access. Thank you, Mr. Strachan. The LNC has missed me. A lot of people have said that I'm amazing, and a lot of people have said that it's great, that I'm, quote, a fucking delight. Okay.
I totally believe that.
Thank you, Miss Halsey. There is no sarcasm in your voice whatsoever.
No, not at all.
I was missed bigly, so they will be happy. So thanks again. And in all sincerity, a huge thanks to Mr. Alstead for stepping up when it's being on the LNC is no easy task, as anyone that's on it can attest to. Ms. Harlows, Ms. Hayes, Mr. Alstead, there's travel involved, a lot of emails to respond to, some pleasant, some angry, and there's a lot of work to be done sometimes on committees. So it is no easy task, so we thank Mr. Alstead for taking the time and doing the things that he had to, and it is a shame that he had to step away. A lot of people had very nice things to say about him on the public list when he announced his resignation earlier today, and rightly so. He will be missed. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. So we have our first candidate endorsements. It would be for Mr. Jeff Schwartz. So the way that I would like to do this is I would like Mr. Schwartz to introduce himself, He can go ahead and unmute. He can show video if he chooses to. He's ready to go with his, I like the, I don't even know how to do that. I'm a boomer, so I don't know how he did like the signs on the back. I'll figure it out someday. Anyway, so I'd like to, so we have 15 minutes allocated for this agenda item. We can always move to extend time. It's not a big deal, but I would like to give Mr. Schwartz the opportunity. He just spoke to the the CSC Thursday, I think it was, last Thursday, and gave his pitch for what he plans to do, some of the stuff that he's planning on. He answered questions. I would like to let him speak, and then once he's finished with his pitch for why we should endorse him as the LPCA Executive Committee, then we will go ahead and go into Q&A. So we'll do that by hand raise. So as soon as you hear something, so please write it down and remember it. I don't want to cut him off. I'd like to let him finish his pitch. Once he does that, please raise your hand if you have some questions. Write it down so that you don't forget it if you need to, and then I'll call on you I will call on you in the order that I see the hands raised. So, Mr. Schwartz, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I don't know how many people actually have met me before. I think a few of you have. I was at the LNC, the California conference convention this year. I was at the California convention in 2020. I've been an LP member pretty much most years since, I don't remember, around 1990. So I think I cast my first vote for Libertarian candidate like in 1980 when I was like, yeah, or maybe when in 76, I'm not sure, but I've been a Libertarian for a long time. And I did my first race as a candidate 2 years ago for city council in Thousand Oaks. And I've announced again, or at least put in the papers, that I'm a candidate again this time. So I'm a seasoned candidate, having had one election cycle already. Thousand Oaks City Council. Last time around, I got more than 7,000 votes. I got in the debates. I got press coverage. I got like a half page in one of the newspapers. I got paragraphs and articles in others. I think there was a bit of a buzz, I did not win the race. The person who got first place was an incumbent who got, I think, around $104,000 in donations. So they have a swamp here, just like in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento, there's a swamp here in Thousand Oaks. I've gotten to know the system a little bit since I started running 2 years ago. So I know how this swamp operates a little bit. Having had the experience, I think I can do even a better job than I did 2 years ago. Adrian said that I'm one of the most viable candidates in California for the Libertarians this year. I know this, that first of all, I have, just confidentially between us, I have some dirt on the incumbent that I haven't made public yet, but I will. And when I do, I think it's going to be newsworthy. I think I'm going to get press about it. I think it's going to be a big thing. Also, I've been doing door-to-door knocking. I've been distributing flyers and door-to-door knocking, talk with a lot of people. Already gotten some donations from local people already. I think that I'm onto something here. My campaign theme is basically tax revolt and drain the swamp. And they have scandals that I can parlay and make good on. So I really think that I can make waves here. Now, can I win? Theoretically, I could win. But what it would take is I need a lot of support. 2 years ago, I I got a database from the LNC. I believe the California Libertarian. And I think it was worth, I don't know, I think it had a nominal value of like $22 or something, but I couldn't actually do anything with the database because I didn't have time and I really didn't have the tools. I think I made a few phone calls from the database and nobody answered. So I can't do everything alone. Now, incidentally, I did do the graphics here. I've done a lot of graphics. I designed my yard signs. I designed my flyers. I put in, I don't know how many hours, but hundreds and hundreds of hours. And I'm willing to put in the work again this time. But I would really like some support from libertarians because I got almost virtually no support from libertarians outside my county. Even within my county, there were Craig was my #1 donor. He was a great donor. And I had a couple of other reasonably decent donations, but there was not a single donation from any libertarian outside of my county. Nowhere in California, nowhere nationwide. Nobody stepped up to volunteer. And so this campaign could do a lot if I could get some support. But it's really frustrating that I was not able to get hardly any support from the Libertarian Party 2 years ago. There are some really easy things you can do to support me. The very first is you can all send me your contacts, your name, your email address, your phone number, and your address. Because there are some things I can think of that maybe I can ask you to help me out that would take almost zero of your time, like really zero of your time, like writing letters to the editor. You might be able to get some published in your name in the local papers. If I had 40, 50, 60 people writing letters to the editor at the 3 newspapers every week, they would be publishing every week letters to the editor. That's free publicity. Donations, I would love to see you guys shell out some money. Maybe some of you have no money. Maybe I understand some of you, maybe you have other commitments of where you're putting your money. But I think there's a lot of big bang for the buck here. I think I can do a lot with the money. I was very frugal. I only had $2,000 of donations 2 years ago. And I put in a little bit of my own money too. But I could do tremendous. And text banking, like that's a paid service. But if I could afford text banking or something like that, anybody who could lend some technical support as a campaign consultant, working with volunteers, doing text banking. I don't know anything about text banking, but I could use so much support. And even if you guys are too busy, you can't do it. If you could just really promote my campaign in a big way, emails, mentioning my name, mentioning my website, saying we need volunteers, we need donations. I think theoretically I could win this campaign. Yeah, but if I don't get support, it's going to be really tough. But I'm working hard on this campaign, and I think there's potential because my campaign theme is great. Tax revolt. I'm saying I want to reduce people's taxes. And even if I can't get it done in the county or the state, they refuse to do it. I say, look, let's save some money and then we'll send out rebate checks to all the taxpayers or tax credits. So, basically Howard Jarvis did it. He was never even elected. So that's my pitch. Drain the swamp. There's so many corruptions and scandals here that people don't know about. And then I am known here because having run 2 years ago and having spoken out in front of the city council, all the city council knows who I am. A lot of people know who I am now. So I think there's a lot of bang for the buck. I say this is a political party. I'm running, I'm stepping up to the plate. I think the party should support me in a big way. I mean, endorsement is great, but really, I'm talking about more than just an endorsement.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. So we have about 6 minutes left on this agenda item. Before I pass it back to Q&A, I'll just say really quickly, he did speak to the CSE, as I mentioned earlier. Mr. Schwartz is right, and I did speak to him about this with the CSE. We are under new management, so to speak, 2 years ago. It is actually quite remarkable, I will say, that he was able to get 7,500 votes, give or take, with virtually no support from the party. And I just want to clarify, as was already discussed with Mr. Schwartz, when we talk about support from the party, we mean volunteers, people doing things to help aid the cause. I've made it clear that the CSC is taking a new direction in which we support our candidates. It will be actually providing support, not just providing money. So we do have at least one political advisor on retainer. We do have another one who has offered his services to us in the past, and Mr. Boomer Shannon, who is arguably the best campaign advisor manager in the country for the LP. So this is how we want to provide support to our candidates. So I think Mr. Schwartz for willing to jump in the deep end again, especially after having, unfortunately, no support in the past when he did it, and still making it happen. So I would encourage, should the endorsement happen, and regardless, for the executive committee to help in whatever capacity they can and get their county affiliates active in helping this. We all know that the presidential candidate is a point of contention amongst some here and amongst some across the country. So we can allocate our efforts toward more local things if that's the case. If that's not your cup of tea, so be it. We can help local candidates like Mr. Schwartz and then Mr. Grant, who will speak shortly after this. So before I pass it off to Ms. Stump, just because Mr. Strachan is the chair of Ventura County, which is the county in which Mr. Schwartz is running, if Mr. Strachan, who knows Mr. Schwartz fairly well, would like to speak on this really quickly before I pass it off to Ms. Stump for Q&A, he'd be welcome to at this time.
Mr. Chair, no, certainly. I think, as Jeff mentioned, I was a donor to his campaign last time. I do intend to do the same this time. I will be making a maximum donation, which I think is $750. These limits are deliberately set low as a incumbent protection racket. But I will certainly be making a donation to Jeff this week. His campaign is up and running. His campaign website is up and running. Jeff is my predecessor, the chair of Ventura County. And indeed, when I moved up here from LA County 2 years ago, he was my first point of contact with the LP locally. And one of the things I was aware about him very quickly was what a fearless, the fearless resistance he mounted to the COVID regime here in Ventura County, protesting masks, issuing self-published mask exemption certificates, leafleting under windshields against some of the COVID excesses in this county. So he's a very principled, long-time libertarian. It will be my pleasure to support him. The LP of Ventura County, I expect, will endorse him at our monthly meeting at the end of June. And I do hope that all my colleagues on the XCOM vote to endorse him and do offer him the sort of support that he has asked for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strachan. Ms. Stump.
Yes, I would like to ask Mr. Schwartz if he has volunteered for any of the local city or county boards, committees, or commissions that don't require a vote to get on, in order to sort of help establish himself as somebody in the political game with the local community.
Well, the answer is no. Just, I haven't done everything, and that's one thing I haven't done.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ms. Stump and Mr. Schwartz. Are there any other questions? And I did send the executive committee the information that was sent to me by Mr. Schwartz. So if all of you have reviewed it, and if you have any additional questions, now would be the time. We have about 2 minutes left on this agenda item. No questions. The pitch was that good. There we go. All right.
I loved the information that we were sent. I think Jeff's a wild man. I'm prepared to move that we endorse Jeff Schwartz.
All right. Mr. Dean has moved to endorse Mr. Jeff Schwartz. And
I
Mr. Schwartz,
second.
just for the record, can you just state the position that you're seeking endorsement for again?
Council member, Thousand Oaks City Council.
So Thousand Oaks City Council member, Mr. Dean has moved to endorse Mr. Schwartz for that position. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Strachan. Is there any further discussion on this motion? We have about a minute left. All right, hearing none, just as a reminder, before we go to a vote, we will do this as a roll call vote. It will require a minimum of 10. I believe it is two-thirds. The parliamentarian can correct me if I'm incorrect, but I do believe it is 2/3. That means we have 14. We have 14 members on the executive committee because we do have one vacancy, so that would be 10 to complete 2/3. Whenever the secretary is ready, he may call the roll.
Okay. All right, we'll start with Mr. Alfstad.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Ms. Halsey,
Yes.
Ms. Stump,
Yes.
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Mr. Hartwig,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Aye.
Mr. Strachan,
Aye.
and Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Cardin,
Yes.
and Mr. Apostolopoulos.
Yes.
Okay, the vote is 13 to 0 to 0 to 0.
The chair will vote aye. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Schwartz. And as you said, again, this is not the beginning, or I'm sorry, this is not the end. This is merely the beginning. So again, I would like the CSE, and as chair of the CSE, we will strategize with the executive committee to help provide support for our candidates. I do believe that the two on this call have a really good chance of winning, and I would like to see some wins this time around. So thank you, Mr. Schwartz. This is just the beginning. He has sent some information, and I may not be able to get the email out tonight to do a money bomb and do everything in our capacity to help your campaign, but it will definitely be by Wednesday if I can't get to it tonight, because I will have a meeting after this. But thank you very much, and congratulations. And you're welcome to stick around. No one would blame you for ducking out early. I'm sure you have things to do, but you're welcome to stick around for as long as you'd like. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. We had to postpone this due to a technical snag last time, but the next item on the agenda is the candidate endorsement of Mr. Tim Grant. Mr. Grant, you have the floor to speak to the executive committee. Again, I know you did this before, but there might be some unresolved questions and just information gathering. So please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me tonight. My name is Tim Grant. I'm running for Calaveras County Supervisor District 1. I've been a private investigator since 1991, specializing in capital cases, background checks, asset checks, white collar crime. I've been in Calaveras County for over 30 years with my wife, Lori, two sons, Joe and Jake. The main reason I'm running is there's some local issues, which I really won't bore you with, but we have a lack of economic development. We have a lake that hasn't had a marina at for 30 years, and we need a hotel really bad. And after talking with people, I decided instead of quit bitching about it, I'm going to get out and run. One main thing is I'm not taking campaign donations. I'm fully self-funded. I'm doing this because I'm in line with the Libertarian Party. I switched my party alignment because the Republican Party is feckless, and I like what I listen to. Matthew Butts, I talk with him all the time. I think that with where I was at in the primary, we had the incumbent had 46, I had 35, and we had a third party that got 20%. I think I'm going to capture probably over half of that and more. I think that I'm very, very confident that I'm going to pull this thing off, because the pouring outcry, and the incumbent has been in office for 12 years and has done nothing except for a couple of Caltrans projects. I think these people up here think that this a board of supervisors is a part-time job where they work 15 hours a week. I think each one of these people, there's 5 supervisors, they should all be their own economic development officers. None of them are out selling this county. It's a beautiful county. I'm at the gym watching Riverside County, beautiful. It looks beautiful. We have nothing going on. We have Calaveras County is the 11th most beautiful county rated in the United States. And yet our tourism is subpar compared to other counties. These are all things that these people need to go out and sell this like a business. I've been self-employed investigator, like I said, most of my adult life. They just don't know how to sell. It's part business sells. And these people look at it like, well, I just don't want to make waves. I don't want to make any problems. It's like, no, I want to do what's best for the county. And with that, I leave it open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. All right, executive committee members, if you have any questions, I know some of you were, I don't know if any of you reached out to Mr. Grant privately. Of course, it was well within your right to do so. Are there any additional questions that you have for Mr. Grant? Yes, Ms. Stump.
I will repeat my question that I had for Mr. Schwartz. Have you done any volunteering on any committees, commissions, or boards at the city or county level?
Yes, I had to step down as a sheriff volunteer because of the conflict of interest, because I'll be overseeing his budget. But I was a year and 4 months as a sheriff volunteer, and it really helped connect with the community. It was actually quite fun. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Very cool. Any other questions for Mr. Grant? Going once, going twice. Mr. Cardin.
So Mr. Grant, what can you just real briefly run us through your campaign plan? Like, how do you plan to get in front of people to earn their votes? I mean, I'm really like impressed by the whole self-funded thing, but the reality is getting in front of people is the only way to get their votes. Like, how are you going to do that? And congratulations, by the way, almost 40% is freaking amazing. You did over almost twice as good as I did. So.
Yeah, you know what? I take advantage of. There's like obviously we're a small community. We have 45,000 people, 662 square acres of size. There's like flea markets. So I set up a booth and I sit out there and I have like they do them once a month. I've had two different times where I've had 20 plus interactions. It's just passing out flyers and just getting to pitch to people what exactly I want to do for the county. The other thing is I'm having a meet and greet. Probably I'm going to get a taco truck, have it down at the golf course, and have people come in and just sit there, do a quick 10-minute pitch. I'm not really long-winded. I hit the PowerPoints and I'm done, and then go around and then work the room. I think that getting out and also knocking doors. It's like I go around and pass out the signs, and it's amazing when you get to talk to people, because my intention is to hit 10 doors a day. And I'll go out and I'll hit one door because I sat with somebody for an hour and a half. So, but those people are going to be selling me to their other 6 friends. So it's actually beneficial. But getting out and actually being an introvert, it's a little tough. It's gotten easier because I'm so passionate about it, but it's just a matter of getting out and talking to people one-on-one basis, because it's the best thing. I got probably 5 or 6 people that are actively helping, but nothing, time-wise. But I think it's just a matter of, in a small county, you have to get out there and you have to, like, I'm going to set up a booth in front of one of the local supermarkets, like a Girl Scout cookie sells, and I'm just going to go out there and just talk to people. That's basically what I'm going to do.
I love it. So one last thing. I mean, you talked a lot about revenue, and so libertarians are obviously going to get concerned because when you talk too much about revenue, it leads to corruption, right? People worry about like, oh, does that lead to heavy subsidies? How are you going to talk about that? So you're exposing corruption while still saying we're going to grow our economy, but we're going to be careful how we do it. Like, can you just 30 seconds just explain how you're going to communicate that to people? As
a private investigator, it's like research is my main gig. I'm looking for fits. I've been in negotiations, which I shouldn't be because I'm not elected yet. There's a guy that makes some type of a car part in San Diego, and it's like his business model fits. And it's like, my main thing is I want to guarantee that whatever business I bring up here is also going to I want internships for juniors and seniors in high school to be able to go work there. I want them to we have a mother-lode job training up here. I want to make sure that these people that have been going through rehab and going through all the training, they have a chance to get a job and stability. So I think that with the investigation background and making sure that this is all what's best for the county, I think that's probably what I got going. I got to get my cat out of here. That's mess it up. There we go.
Very cool. I will just add, Mr. Grant, when he initially came to us with a similar proposal as Mr. Schwartz, which is he understood he wasn't seeking money, he was seeking endorsement and assistance, just like Mr. Schwartz, understanding the financial limitations of the LPCA. So I appreciate that our candidates are getting to a point where they understand that, you know, a few $100s or a couple $1,000s isn't going to make the difference in a race. It is that kind of stuff. I can say, I mean, I've done this kind of stuff in the past, but nothing has made it more clear to me than, you know, the last just over a week or so, that the approach of, you know, talking to people door to door, or just speaking to them, it does resonate with them. They do talk to other people, and it does have an impact, especially in such a polarized, I guess, political time and a political year. So it does really resonate with people. They want to meet the people that they're potentially voting for. They want to know that they're real people and not, you know, just your standard or average politician or whatever the case might be. So I do applaud Mr. Grant for taking the time to meet with people and being able to do the one-on-one stuff. And I know that Mr. Schwartz has done this in the past, as Mr. Strachan pointed out in the comments. He is the king of signs. So his sign game is on point, I believe, was it's the verbiage that the children use nowadays. So the same thing applies here. Sign games, those really work. Talking to people, that all really work. So I applaud Mr. Grant for taking the time to meet his potential constituents and trying to get their vote the old-fashioned way, with a handshake and eye contact. It really does go a long way. And as we all know, the people that are over 40 are the ones that tend to vote the most, and those are the ones that cling to the old ways, for lack of a better way to put it. Mr. Hartwig.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Grant. I did have a couple questions. You mentioned in general the idea of wanting to bring economic development and a couple of specific things that you sought to bring to Calaveras County, the marina and a hotel. You know, as libertarians, we tend to start feeling a little allergic to this idea of, you know, the government bringing in this economic development. So my question is how should I say this? How, in terms of both sort of rhetoric and policy, how do you see libertarian ideals playing a role in your candidacy in that regard, and also in the policies you would implement if elected?
I think the main reason is, since I've been up here for 30 years, we've needed lodging. If you have extended family come up, there's nowhere to stay. So regardless of ideology, it's something that is just a basic necessity. Plus, it'll create jobs. As far as policy in regards to, as a supervisor, I think that economic development to create jobs, it's just, there's a lack of opportunities. People have to commute from, we're about an hour away from Sacramento, 45 minutes from Stockton. There is no employment up here. And it's just because the current board and the boards before them have not ever researched and thought, wow, we can actually bring up jobs and help our people out. So it doesn't really have anything to do with, it has to do with more with like helping, giving people opportunities to be employed up here versus driving an hour to Sacramento. Oh, and also, before I forget, the Democratic Party asked me to come give them the pitch. I gave them the same pitch I'm giving you, and they endorsed me, blew me away, because two of the board members left and refused to be in the same room with me because I guess the American flag tattoo was a little too much for them, and the shirt. So yeah, I got the Democratic Party endorsement. The Republicans did not. They endorsed the incumbent. So it's like, go figure.
Before Mr. Harwood gets to the next question, I will just say, and I think Mr. Cardin, probably Mr. Nichols, and Mr. Schwartz may back me up on this. As libertarians, we do have a lot of we don't have a lot of what's what I want to say. We don't have a lot of advantages when it comes to stuff like this. One of the bigger ones is that we're able to pitch either party, because our job, as the great Scott Horton has said many times, is to outright the right and out left the left. So we get to pick on certain issues, and we get to appeal to a vote on either side. And a lot of people, as I've encountered here, I'm sure we've all encountered them in California. I know I have in the Bay Area. but here in New Mexico, people are ready for change on some level. There are the people that are sticklers and will do whatever they're supposed to do, but people want something different. And if you have someone that aligns with their values and you're able to give them a pitch that they can stomach, it works out really well. Mr. Hartwig, go ahead. I think you had additional questions.
Kind of more just kind of clarification on the same topic. When you talk about, bringing jobs up, I guess, could you get a little more specific where you see your role at? Are you talking things like Ms. Stump put in the comments, you asked about, are you talking cutting red tape for business development? Are you talking, spending money to actually subsidize business development? Could you kind of just get a little more specific what where you would see your role, what specific policies to encourage that?
Okay, in our county right now, it's impossible. We have a housing shortage. It's impossible to build. You can't open up a business. There's no way to entice anybody. My plan is to say yes and steamroll the impediments. Right now, we have a problem with the red tape is horrendous. And it's like, we're not giving people the opportunity to move up here and relocate and open up their businesses. So it's that part of it is going to be the hard part. It's like, you can go out and sell all day long, but if you have all the red tape and all the bureaucratic crap that we have to deal with, it's like, that's something that we have to get into with the other 4 supervisors. And hopefully there's a couple of them that have like-minded people where you can actually make a change. It's something where I'm very passionate about it, because I think that every kid that lives up here relocates because there's nothing, there's no economic outlet for him here. I think that if you open up a little bit and make it possible for people to stay here, it helps the betterment of the county, and it helps that you can have people stay up here and instead of moving away, because hey, this place is awesome. If you guys never been here, I mean, it's just fantastic. I love this place. I would never move.
Really quickly before we get to Mr. Dean, assuming that Mr. Hartwig doesn't have any other questions, just for a procedural thing, we are at time. Would anyone like to move to extend time for, let's say, 5 minutes?
I'll move to extend time for 5 minutes because I have a quick question.
Yes, motion to extend time by 5 minutes by Mr. Dean. Is there a second? I will second. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Okay, Mr. Hartwig is good with questions. Mr. Dean, you have the floor.
All right, Mr. Grant, just very quickly, I want to hit you with a scenario. So you go out of town, you find a businessman. He says, yeah, man, I love it. I want to come to your community. I want to build this thing. I found this great piece of property. I just need you to eminent domain this other piece and then sell it to me. What do you do?
No.
Fair
property
enough.
rights. Come on, property rights. No, if it's in our general plan, if it's the thing about property rights is that you have to also worry about what you're doing is how is that going to affect your neighbor, because then you're affecting their property rights. So it's like when somebody comes up and it's like these underhanded deals, and it's like, no, we're going to follow the book. The general plan has something set up to be zoned in a different way 10 years from now. It's like, okay, then you can talk about it, but you can't just go in and sell out yourself and sell your soul because you want to get a business up here. Like, no, it's got to be by the book, and it's got to be a fit for the county. That's why I'm looking for the businesses, not the businesses looking for me. If I go out and search for these businesses, it's going to make a difference because I'm going to bring up what's a like-minded person from up that we want up here that's going to be a fit for the community.
All right, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Dean and Mr. Grant. Are there any other questions for Mr. Grant before we before we start? I guess, at this point, we can entertain motions to endorse at any time. So are there any additional questions for Mr. Grant? Okay. We will now entertain the motion. We will now entertain a motion to endorse Mr. Grant. Who would like to do the honors?
I move to endorse Mr. Tim Grant for Calaveras County Supervisor.
All right. Mr. Strachan has moved to endorse Mr. Grant for Calaveras County Supervisor. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Stump. Is there any discussion, further discussion? Still have 2 minutes. Hearing none, we will move to a vote. whenever the secretary is ready. As a reminder, this will require 2/3, so that means a minimum of 10 executive committee members. Mr. Secretary, whenever you're ready.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Alvstad.
Aye.
I will vote yes. Ms. Halsey,
Aye.
Ms. Stump,
Yes.
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Strachan,
Hey.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Carden,
Yes.
and Mr. Apostolopoulos.
Yes.
Okay, the vote is 13 to 0 to 0 to 0.
The chair will vote aye. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Grant. Thank you so much for taking the time and fixing the technical snafu that we had last time. So I will again say to you what I said to Mr. Schwartz. Please contact, if you can send me, what I'd like to do is send respective emails a few days apart. So Mr. Schwartz called dibs on I gave him dibs, he didn't call it. I gave him dibs for the first one. So I'd like to send an email blast to the membership. So when I say that, it's using, we have a CRM called Neon, where I can reach the entire membership. And then as we get involved with the recruitment committee and doing stuff promoting our candidates, both at the local and federal level, we'd love to include you in that kind of stuff. So if you'd like to write something short and sweet, then I can send in an email blast as to why people should donate money to your campaign. And
I can't take, I'm not taking donations.
Oh, you're not taking donations. Look at that.
Nope.
All right.
No donation.
Well then general support for your area so we can get the word out. That's fine too. So if you'd like to write something short and sweet that I can email, I can just email blast it to the membership in Calaveras County and other registered libertarians in that area so that we can get you out there and the whole bit. So if there's anything that you'd like me to promote at any given time, if you require any sort of support, just like we've offered Mr. Schwartz as far as the campaign consulting and any other general advice and counsel that we can provide for you, as well as volunteers to help out. I know that Mr. Kyle Tom, the chair of Calaveras County, is a fantastic resource. He's very engaged and does as much as he can. I'm sure you're very familiar with Mr. Tom.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, just let me know how we can support you. I'll probably reach out to you and get a headshot for the websites we like to promote our candidates on the website, and especially those that are taking it seriously and doing what they can to affect change in their local community. So thank you again, Mr. Schwartz. Thank you again, Mr. Grant, for joining us today. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting should you wish, but you don't have to. Feel no obligation. The endorsement is done. The hard part is done. And now it's more technical stuff. But thank you both. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Of course. All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. It is budget reallocation for the recruitment committee, for a recruitment committee project. I've allocated 15 minutes for this. I don't know if we will need it, but if we, I always overextend. For those of you that haven't realized yet, I always overextend time just to make sure that we get everything in and not have to make the motions to extend time. But I will go ahead and pass this agenda item to the chair of the recruitment committee, who is our vice chair, Mr. Alvstad. So Mr. Alvstad, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. What we are trying to do on the recruitment committee, we've chosen the target this time is the voters who are registered to vote Libertarian but are not members of the party. We have, according to L2 data, there's somewhere around 250,000 people like this, give or take, and there are 900 members of the LPCA. So if we can get 1% of people who are registered Libertarian to join, it would triple our numbers. And what we're looking at is it's actually much cheaper now than it's ever been to reach out to people through telemarketing. There are free, what do you call it? I'm having my Biden moment now. There are
Don't shit your
services
pants.
you can hire people. Upwork.com is a perfect example. And you can hire in the international market, you can get telemarketers actually fairly cheap that have a lot of experience, that are good at it, for about $10 an hour. Printing costs have come way down, so you can do direct mailers. And then, of course, we've used Rumble in the past to do text message blasts. And the idea is to because these are people that are already registered libertarian, not reach out to them in the normal way where we're trying to convince them of the merits of the Libertarian Party. This is where these are people that already are sold, and they just need to understand that registering libertarian is not the end all be all, that there's more to it to become libertarian, that the being in the party is actually fun, and there's, all these get-togethers we do and also the more as more people sign up, we can actually effect some political change. So what we're asking is for a little seed money, and what we want to do is start a few projects because we're reaching people that weren't going to be members of the party, and because we do have an annual fee for being in the party. If we can get people to sign up for less than $25 in cost to the party, this movement will actually pay for itself. And so that's what we're looking for, is a little seed money to prove out the concept that we can get people at less than $25 per person, and that we can in fact grow this campaign with strictly on the money that the campaign itself raises, and grow to the point where we can reach out to all 250,000 people in the state that are registered but are not in the party.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I will add to this as a member of the recruitment committee. So for those of you that don't know, just so that everyone is aware, I did create I moved to create the recruitment committee last year because there is a significant difference between membership and recruitment. Membership is supposed to be targeted toward members that are inactive or currently active members to try to get them to up their tiers of membership. The recruitment committee is different. So before, the membership committee used to do everything, and that's just not fair. Those are two different tiers. So you have membership, which is geared toward the actual membership, either getting them to come back if they've left for whatever reason, trying to find out whatever grievances they have, if any, if it wasn't just financial hardship or they moved or whatever the case might be. And recruitment is supposed to be exactly what the vice chair just said, which is to bring in those members that are unaware that we have a system in which we pay dues and stuff. So this is kind of a foreign concept to a lot of people. I've said in the past that most people aren't born libertarian. Some are, but the state creates the rest, right? So they come from other parties. And for those of you that did come from other parties once upon a time, I didn't. I was always very pure, which is why I'm the one true libertarian, but it's neither here nor there. So they're not used to a system in which there's a dues paying system, right? So you have a few people that are officers, or what their equivalent of the executive committee is. They donate untold amounts of money to be in these positions of faux power. I guess for them it might be real power or whatever. But and that's how they keep the coffers going, right? And then you just have people that have recurring donations on a monthly or yearly basis, whatever. So the strategy here is to get these people to understand that we do have a mechanism in which they can participate in party business. And it's not just, it doesn't stop. I'm sorry, it might start with registering libertarian, but it doesn't stop there, right? You can call yourself a libertarian, and that's fine, whatever, but you're not part of the LP if you're not actively involved in our business and being a dues paying member. I mean, you could be a dues paying member and not be actively involved, but that's whatever. So in my entire history on the executive committee, and I think that at the very least, the vice chair and the secretary can back this up. I think I've only had 1 or 2 emails when people that are registered libertarian and want to know if there's more to it, when they're kind of pitched what it means to be a dues paying member, what you get out of it. I think 1 or 2 people in the last 4 years in my entire involvement in the executive committee have said, "How dare you try to take my money, you evil, evil man." That's not, and they're just like demented people. And I just explained to them. And actually, one of them I was able to explain, like, we don't make money. This is just to keep the lights on and do the good work that we do. And then I believe he became a dues paying member. That was about last year. And the other one just said, "Go to hell." And, that's fine. That's whatever. So this is going to be a targeted effort, as the vice chair said. This is going to be, there is a plan in the recruitment committee, which I am a part of. And I thank the vice chair for coming up with a script and all this other stuff. So I'll just add a couple of things. The telemarketing thing and getting an outside firm to do some of the legwork doesn't doesn't take away our responsibility to do the work on the recruitment committee, or even getting executive committee members on the phone to commit an hour a week, maybe just to making some phone calls to some registered voters in their respective areas that they can talk to. It comes a lot coming from you. I know that here in the LP, we don't really, well, some people care about titles and stuff. Generally, the older type folks. I've always found that hilarious. Even people that I know for a fact do not like me with, and what I won't even say don't like me, but like hate me with a blinding passion, will still call me Mr. Chair when they see me at an event or whatever, and they'll play nice for a little bit. So
I don't play
for all
nice ever.
well, we're not speaking to you, you pink-haired demon. I'm just kidding. I adore you. So the it really does mean a lot for them. So if we're talking about people, if you say I'm a member of the executive committee, that already goes a long way. So that's something that you could convert someone for $25 a year, and that's not going to mean a whole lot to them. So it will mean a whole lot to them, but it'll be mean more to us with revenue coming in. As far as the telemarketing thing, this is something that the LNC has recently tried. It didn't go as well as was anticipated, because the primary thing was that they weren't trained properly, and that was a whole logistical issue that I don't want to get into. But as I spoke with the vice chair, if we found a good company that was willing to do it, not willing to, like anyone will be willing to do anything for money. Ms. Harlos knows more about that than most people.
Oh
so
God.
If wikipedia.com. So here, so I would be, so the vice chair has done a really good job coming up with the script and other stuff. I would just have to fine tune some things. I do have a sales and recruiting background, as most of you know. So if they're trained properly and they're told what to do and how to do it, I think this could be actually beneficial. You have people that we don't have to pay a whole lot to do it. And again, this is very targeted. We're not just going to throw untold amounts of money on this, but we do, as a reminder to everybody, we did make over $26,000 at convention this past year. It was a record for the LPCA. So we do have a little bit of money to play with. The motion here that I believe was crafted by the vice chair would be to up to a certain amount, and this would be kind of a first installment or whatever, and kind of be able to run these beta tests to, we would do a money bomb to try. We already have some people that we've told this idea to offline that really like it, and that we're reaching out. We're finally doing this thing where we're reaching out to registered libertarians, trying to turn them into dues paying members. So we'll do a money bomb to try to get money allocated specifically for this project. Whatever we fall short of what the vice chair's motion will be for the financial aspect of it, the difference would be taken from the budget, of which we have a surplus because, again, of convention, it wasn't a net zero as it has been in the past. So, well, not counting last year, but before that, it was a net zero or sometimes a negative. So here we have money to kind of exercise this stuff. So I would like to allocate some of this money toward recruitment, and then we'll do something for membership a little bit later once I draw up that plan. But yeah, I think that covers everything. That being said, are there any questions for the vice chair? Mr. Dean?
So are we talking about an upfront financial outlay from the executive committee tonight, or we're just authorizing the money bomb and the fundraising move to be dedicated to this thing?
So my understanding, of the vice chair can correct me if I'm wrong, would be to allocate up to a certain amount that would be covered by whatever the money bomb covers, and then the difference would be made up by whatever is in the coffer right now. So as an example, I don't remember the number that the vice chair gave me, but I'm just going to throw a number out there. I don't think it's this much, but let's say we do $5,000. If we do a money bomb for a couple of weeks and it brings in $2,000, then the executive committee would be committing $3,000 to make up the difference of whatever, like up to $3,000, and then we'll evaluate how that went. If it was a success and we're able to at least break even while bringing more members in, fantastic. We bring it back to you as the executive committee, and you guys get to decide how this should go. If it turns out to be a failure, then we need to re-strategize and see. That's why we're doing it in a very small step, because I don't want to just well, not just me, but the vice chair, being the chair of the recruitment committee, doesn't want to just throw money at something and hope for the best. We have to do this in stages, and it has to be a very controlled test in certain areas to see what we can do and not do, and how fruitful this will be. I don't believe in burning money. I grew up poor.
Fair enough. Well, I think I'm up for seeing the motion then.
Okay, so is there any further discussion on this? Any questions, comments, concerns, grievances, jokes? All right, no points of humor. That was just a Mr. Dean thing. That's Joe Dean, not Lauren Dean. That was my favorite Joe Dean moment of all time. The point of humor, I will say. I just talked about it with his wife at convention, and she thought it was hilarious. Mr. Strachan.
No, I just see that Mr. Sullivan describes this as effectively a retainer. I guess it's maybe more a proof of concept kind of thing at this point, right?
Yeah, it's about, yeah, I don't know what he means by retainer. I mean, I know what retainer means, but it's kind of like that. So we have, it would be a budget that the executive committee decides on based on the motion that's being proposed by the vice chair. So I would ask that no one second it until they hear the motion in full. And if we want to craft some stuff or anyone else has some input, then we can second it so that we don't have to like go through an amendment and do the whole thing, because we are talking about finances here. So yes, in effect, it would be, let's say, and I'm just throwing a number out there, I don't remember what the vice chair had suggested and what we'd agreed upon at the recruitment committee. All the committees blend together for me now. So let's say it's $5,000. The money bomb raises $2,000, so it'd be up to $5,000. That would be made up by whatever isn't collected by the money bomb, which is specifically for this effort. And I think that we could make a fair amount of money just based on some people that have already committed to making certain donations for this project to see how it goes. So it wouldn't be the risk would be weighted, right? So it would be money bomb plus whatever. And again, I think it's a risk worth taking. So it just, and I don't believe it's a lot of money. I'll let the vice chair take it from here. I think he has a motion crafted.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I would like to move that we allocate up to $3,000 in order to implement the pilot phase of the recruitment plan that was developed by the recruitment committee.
Probably say something in there about the money bomb.
Yeah, the money will be whatever is necessary after funds have been raised with the money bomb to make a total of $3,000 available to the committee.
That's a good question, actually, Mr. Dean. Do we have text for this, or are we doing this off the cuff?
I do not have text for it. Apologize.
If you could put something in the chat, just so everyone sees it. But just while he does that, does anyone have any suggestions? No one seconded it yet, because we can still, the motion has been made, but it has not been seconded. So what was while he does this, Ms. Harlos, what was Mr. Cowan's shining moment at the DC meeting?
Dies for lack of emotion.
That's right.
Dies for lack of emotion.
It was I love Martin Cowan, and I'm very sad that he is not on the LNC anymore. But that was a really funny moment, because he didn't even mean to make a funny, but he just did, and he's a very funny man. That was a hilarious moment.
Dies for lack of it. It was on the agenda, but the person who put it on the agenda was no longer on the LNC. So Angel was like, "Okay, we're at this item," and everyone just looks at each other. And Martin like dies for lack of emotion.
I will miss that man. He was one of my favorite people. That was fantastic. But yeah, I think $3,000 should get us to a good core and give us a few months to kind of sort this out, and we'll be able to track our progress as this goes out. So this is a good, and I expect that we'll be doing something similar for membership committee as this comes out, but that'll be a little bit different since we're trying something new. Mr. Dean.
Is there, do we want to build something into this motion, and maybe not, but is there some consideration of where to try this? Are we going to try it statewide? Are we going to pick a county?
There are this is something I would also I'll take this time really quickly while he asks this question to encourage anybody that wants to join any of these committees, not formally, but as an XCOM member, you have every right to join a meeting of any committee that you want. As far as the public is concerned, it's up to the chair and the committee as a whole. But any executive committee member can join any meeting just to sit in the background and give input should they wish, and whatever. So, and the vice chair can correct me if I'm wrong while he's crafting this right now. It was to do 2 separate counties, kind of a more red county and a more blue county, and try different approaches. and see how it would work in very targeted areas. I believe that was what was discussed and what was agreed upon. So it would not be a statewide thing because that would cost a lot of money. So we want to target it in the most populous areas, but a more red county, a more blue county, try kind of different pitches and see how this works. And I'll also add that this is something that I discussed with the CSC, but this doesn't mean that it can't be worked into other things. And we're trying to find out what the loopholes for this are. And it's, we do have money in the FEC account, and this is a presidential year where we have at least one federal candidate, i.e. the person running for POTUS, that we could try to use. And I think that as the LNC chair so brilliantly, when she gave her endorsement of the POTUS candidate for the LP, we can use that to our advantage being in a blue state, and we should be able to. I don't remember they or theirs name. So I'm just going to refer to them as the candidate. But I do believe that we will be able to use FEC funds, of which we have remained untouched since I believe 2015. I want to say not accruing interest. I think it's just under $6,000. So we might be able to also allocate this eventually to the recruitment committee or to membership, because if we do it on behalf of, if we mention the candidate and it is on behalf of the candidate that we're doing it, then FEC funds can be used for this. So it's kind of, I don't want to say free money, but it's money that we would otherwise just have there sitting for however long, because it's not enough to make an impact in any campaign, but it can help the party while perhaps inadvertently also helping the candidate.
I ask about counties specifically because this sounds like something that I could theoretically sell to my executive committee in Riverside County, and we could come up with a little bit of money to put towards this out of our county money. Is that something that Gary and the committee are willing to potentially contemplate or consider, or do they already have some counties staked out? And
well, no, we don't.
That's up to the vice chair.
That's something.
That's
part of the plan. Is that once we have a return on investment, that we can sell to the counties, because the counties get half of that money. We'd probably be more in the form of just asking for a cut back of that county money, of anyone we sign up, getting some of that, the due sharing passed back to the recruitment committee.
well, and I don't know if split it anyway, right? I mean, anybody who signs up with $25, the county's going to get 12 or whatever, right?
Correct, $12.50. Yeah. So I mean, this is up to Mr. Alvstead. So if you want to be one of the pilot ones and we want to shift it, that's completely up to him. And then, we can discuss it. If you want to come to the next recruitment committee meeting and give the pitch, I mean, I think it would help curb the cost at the beginning so we can kind of see how it works out. But I do think this would be beneficial for any county to hop on board. And the vice chair can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that the initial plan for this was to try it in these obscure counties and then be able to pitch it to others. But if you want to be part of the beta test for the guinea pig county, especially during this cycle right now when we have a little bit of money to burn via the FEC account, we don't have to really dip into our funds for this yet. I don't know if you would have any opposition to that, but I don't think I would.
Yeah, and a lot of the details of this, unfortunately, we reached out to Dave Schrader, who's a data scientist and knows these kind of things. I mean, we need some, and he's out of the country for a couple more days now, another week, I think. So when he gets back, we'll set up a meeting with him, and we kind of want to make these trials broad enough that that we believe they can be repeated everywhere in the state, but also targeted enough that I mean, and we want the sample sizes to be large enough that the results are meaningful, but small enough that we can do on our limited budget. We can do multiple rounds and kind of iterate, see what works and doesn't work, and continually improve our pitch. So we do need a little advice from someone who understands statistics and data science a lot better than us, and so that will change our answers to some of those questions.
And two things that I'll just add really quickly to that. So just to answer Mr. Sullivan's question in the chat, counties can do that. There's no regulatory thing that I'm aware of. Mr. Brown can correct me if I'm wrong, or Ms. Halsey, but there isn't anything that I'm aware of that prevents counties from doing that. The second thing that I was going to say, I just pulled a Biden. I just lost my train of thought. Probably wasn't important. Okay, seems like Kern County could potentially be on board, but I would encourage you guys, if you want to come to the recruitment committee meeting, so the next time that the vice chair sends out a link for that meeting, he can also send it to recruitment, and then also send it to the ACTCOM and anyone that wishes to join and give some input and help, because we will need buy-in from everybody on this to make this successful. And what I was going to say is I've seen I have seen the LNC do this in the past, and I've also seen state affiliates do this in the past. I've seen our own state affiliate do this in the past. And it's just, you dedicate an obscene amount of money to something and you just hope for the best. And that's just not how I like to operate. I want to do it in a very controlled environment, see this return on investment. I'm very fiscally conservative in that respect. And I want to make sure, because we run on fumes, even despite the fact that we had a $26,000 surplus for convention that was unexpected by a lot of people. We want to make sure this isn't our money. This is the money of the membership, and we want to be as responsible with it as possible. And we have to make sure, as Mr. Dean said earlier, that the risk is worth taking. And we eventually have to take risks in order to, show some growth and do stuff. But we have to be very smart and strategic about the way that we do it, which is why Dr. Schrader is very integral in this, being a data scientist and being able to help us with this. And this was a project that was kind of started in the past with the then executive director, Tim Ferreira, and it just kind of went away, and no one really allocated any more time or effort or money into it. But this is, it's a presidential cycle. Whether or not our candidate is popular or well-known or liked doesn't mean that this isn't a very interesting time for us to be able to try something like this. I've seen this in New Mexico, and California is really no different. Whether people are, and what we would be really trying to pull from is the left, because they seem to the most not disenfranchised, but disillusioned rather with their choice. It's a guy that wears a diaper in front of the Pope and can't control his bowels. So, Trump voters are always going to be Trump voters, but Biden voters, there's some wiggle room there. And that's where, Mr. Kennedy is going to pull from most likely in a lot of these states. So we have a way to make some inroads here. Even if they don't like our candidate, we could still pitch the party. So it's not the end of the world there. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So it looks like the vice chair came up with the text for the motion. I'll let him read it. No one seconded it yet. Everyone just take a moment to digest it and just make sure that this is exactly what we want to see, so that we don't have to go through any procedural nonsense after the fact. So if the vice chair would like to read his text.
Yes, thank you. I move to allocate up to $3,000 to implement the pilot phase of the recruitment plan developed by the recruitment committee. The exact amount will be what is needed to bring the total money raised to $3,000 after a fundraising money bomb intended to raise money for this effort.
Do we want to throw some kind of expiration date on the money bomb effort?
Wait, really quickly, Mr. Edgar was going to say something.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
a point of information. Do we want to include the written plan as an attachment? Like I could say, well, the plan referenced in Exhibit A.
So for the
by the first phase of the recruitment plan.
I would say that that's something that we would do. I don't want to attach it to the minutes, because this is political strategy. So that would go under executive session. If the vice chair wants to send it to the private list after this, I think that would be appropriate, but I wouldn't want to attach it to the minutes.
Okay.
Mr. Dean?
I just wonder, for the sake of legalistic parliamentary pedantry, do we want to try and put a time limit on the money bomb fundraising effort, so that we say, for example, we'll raise money for this through the end of July, and then whatever the difference is between that and $3,000, then we pay it. Otherwise, there is effectively no defined point at which the money bomb is over, and therefore there is no after.
Right. So I would actually prefer that be the case. And I'll just say, and you can disagree, I'm just throwing this out there. I was going to do a perpetual money bomb, so that as we do this and as money starts rolling in to begin the phase, because we're not going to just we don't need to pay all $3,000 immediately, right? So if we keep the money bomb going and it pays for itself without having to dip into the budget, then it works in our favor. So that would be the upside of not having a closed. And I think the vice chair can correct me if I'm wrong. I do think that that's what was discussed. I don't mind putting a time frame on it if it makes people more comfortable, but I think it would be more prudent for the party's, coffer to not do that. But I'm open to suggestions. Those are just things that we discussed on the committee.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm concerned about not having some kind of cap time-wise on this particular transaction.
That's fine.
And
I absolutely understand. You're not wrong. That was just our thought process. I don't think you're incorrect, or I don't think it's out of line or out of order at all.
And there's nothing really inherently stopping us from approving another money bomb and doing another thing, right? But just so that we can keep all the accounting straight in case anybody wants to ask, and
sure,
somebody's going to ask, then we should.
Who would ask?
It is what it is, right? These are the times in which we live. So there's part of me that would like to say we'll raise money up until a certain date, and then at that point, then the executive committee fills in up to $3,000, and then we could do another motion just like this to do a second tranche and do the same thing.
This is a win-win for me, because if it's a huge success, then I get to claim all the praise, and if it's a failure, then I get to blame the vice chair. It's perfect. There's no losing for me.
Collectivize those losses, baby. That's what we're all about here in libertarianism.
Let's just do a quick straw poll before we move. If we want to add to this. So if Mr. Dean wants to make an amendment to this, he's more than welcome to before there's a second. Let's do a quick straw poll. Who would be in favor of no time frame on this thing for the reasons that I stated already? Just do a quick raise your hand, use the emoji. Okay, so we have 5, 6, 7. Okay, hands down. So we have 7 for no time frame. Those that would be more comfortable with the time frame, let's say the end of July, as Mr. Dean suggested, and I don't know if that's set in stone, but a time frame, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's 5 to 7. Okay, so it seems like not having a time frame is the preferred for this effort to be approved by the. Oh, that's actually a really good amendment, I think. What Mr. Sullivan proposed in the chat, for this effort to be approved by the LPCA Executive Committee on the following Executive Committee meeting after the money bomb ends. That's not bad. That's kind of the sweet spot between both, I think. Mr. Dean, what do you think? Or Mr. Sullivan, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it's starting to have the cap for a time. You can see that it goes on for too long. Nobody's clear as to when it actually has to be approved. I don't know. I think it's just better to be clear than to not.
That's fair. Mr. Dean, how do you feel about that? Or you can just be in silence forever. I'm going to give it to Mr. Hartwig then. Mr. Hartwig, go ahead.
So I have a question about Mr. Sullivan's proposed amendment here.
Yeah.
What exactly, I mean, if so, as I understand it, this text would be saying that we would still need to approve the money one final time after the money bomb ends. It seems a little redundant. So what's the point of what we're doing now if we still have to approve the money after the money bomb?
Mr. Sullivan?
I mean, technically, all it says is allocating the amount. It doesn't. I don't see anything in the initial motion that actually proves and amounts. It just says to allocate this for this, but it doesn't say, I don't think it says anything about actually finally approving, unless I'm misreading.
So if I understand the amendment, before I pass it on to Mr. Strachan, this would be to, so this effort would be approved by the executive committee after the money bomb ends. So then the difference would be, we would know what the difference is after that happens. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
what would be approved.
What you said. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's how I understood it to be, if that makes sense to everybody. So assuming that we started the money bomb this week and we raise, let's say, before our next executive committee meeting would be July 15th. So let's say that we raise like $2,000 by then the ask at that point would be $1,000. And that's when the money bomb would end, essentially. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, as I understand it. Is that correct, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, exactly. And then at the next, say it's 1,000 raised, and then at the next meeting, we would have just approved 2,000. How that would actually work when we get there, procedurally, is probably an interesting question. I mean, it's just to say to be approved, so they probably would just need another motion next meeting. I don't know how exactly that would go. Maybe that's a parliamentarian question.
Yeah, with that, before I pass it to Mr. Sullivan for the parliamentarian, is that in order for a financial transaction? Could we do something like that?
I'm sorry, I missed it. Tell me again, because was like, look, a bird.
So there's a motion in the chat that was for 9:18 p.m. that was to move to allocate up to $3,000 to implement the pilot phase of the recruitment plan developed by the recruitment committee. The exact amount will be what is needed to bring the total money raised to $3,000 after a fundraising money bomb intended to raise money for this effort. An amendment that was proposed by Mr. Sullivan is after effort to be approved by the LPCA executive committee on the following executive committee meeting after the money bomb ends. So essentially there's a new text on the bottom. So essentially what's being proposed is that the executive committee approve whatever at our next meeting, contingent on what the money bomb brings in, so that we would pay the difference at the time that we know what the difference would be.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. So why don't you just do the money bomb, and then what do you even need a motion for now?
Oh, I guess that's a good point. What does the vice chair think about that? We could just do the money bomb. So now that the executive committee knows about it, and then we could see what the difference is that needs to be made up on July 17th, and that would be the money that we start off with.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to just, I guess, give everyone the heads up that we will be asking for money.
So it's not blind. Yeah, so
meeting.
it's not blind. Right. So now it's not blind. It would be if we were able to raise like $2,000 and it's only $1,000 ask, then we're good to go. Mr. Strachan.
I was just wondering, I mean, it sounds like the timeline, I mean, you want to have this money to start this project sooner rather than later, so mid-July seems reasonable. I think that we can circle back and, see how the money bomb goes, and then if top-up is required, fine. But I mean, a more open-ended thing, I think, you want this money, you want to start, right? So might as well start.
When is the next recruitment committee meeting?
I haven't said it yet. I was planning on doing it next week.
Okay, so if it's acceptable, then what we could
after Dr. Schrader is back in the state.
Oh, that's right. That's a big hold up. Okay, so what we could do is apologies, I have a Jolly Rancher in my mouth because my mouth is super dry right now. I hate this desert. So let's do this. If the vice chair wouldn't mind drafting something with Mr. Dean, like a money bomb ask, because he's a really good writer, and then you have what you're asking for. We can send that out as early as this weekend, and we can start doing, let's do emails 1, 2, and 3. So we can start getting it going while Dr. Schrader starts working on that. We'll see how much money we raise, and then we come back in July, and whatever money we raise, we can start working off of, because it's just whatever. If we start it sooner rather than later, then it's fine. And then as we need more funding moving forward, it's like, way that I'm thinking about it is, and you know this better than most, it's like a series A, B, and C sort of a thing. So we're doing it kind of in stages, and then we can get the rest of it. So we don't, because we're not going to blow through it all immediately anyway. It's going to be something that's going to be allocated and doled out appropriately. So we start the money bomb now. Within the next couple of weeks before the next XCOM meeting, we have this money, and then everyone has a heads up about what we're doing. We're able to report this is how much was brought in, and then this is what we need to finish the project until this time, and then we reevaluate, and then we come back with an additional ask or whatever the case might be. Does that sound good?
Can I just ask, how long do you anticipate this like pilot project running? Month, 2 months?
That's a good question for the vice chair.
I mean, we still don't know because we're waiting till we get a better sense after talking to Dr. Schrader how many rounds it's going to be
right.
before we're confident that we've got an ROI that's repeatable.
That's a good point. So just so that everyone's aware, when we came up with this plan, the vice chair reached out to Dr. Schrader the next day, and he was in Europe because white people. So we're waiting for him to come back and then to be able to give us an actual breakdown of what that would look like. That's true. I forgot about that. So that's everything's hanging on him coming back from Europe in one piece and not being too tired to help us out. But there's already a meeting scheduled if memory serves, because he was willing to help, just not while he was I don't know, doing whatever white people do in Europe outside of going to football matches, I guess.
And colonializing.
Celebrating their colonial ancestry.
And even that $3,000 figure could change after talking to him. That's kind of what we assume. That's what we're starting with, that where we want our budget for the pilot. But if we talk to him and says the data is meaningless until you've talked to, tens of thousands of people, then that we'll need a bigger budget to start with, or we might look at it and go, no, you can know right away if it's effective or not, and then we wouldn't need so much money for the pilot.
So yes, he won't be tired, because I know that no one works in Europe. I've read a lot of books and seen a lot of British TV. Also, colonializing is based. Mr. Sullivan is correct. Okay, so let's do that then. If Mr. Dean is willing to work with the vice chair and start cranking up, that we can write 3 emails back to back to back, have them ready to go. I can have them queued up. We can start doing maybe 4, and we can do one once a week, and then just start promoting them, seeing where we are at the next XCOM meeting based on the donations that come in as a result of the emails. And I can do a trackable link through Neon, and then we can make a motion at the next meeting. The parliamentarian made a very good point there. We were kind of making a lot of work. This is one of the times where she didn't make more work for us. She made less work for us. So that's never happened before. I can't wait to tell people. That's wild. She wanted less procedure instead of more. This is that everyone remember,
I'm
it is
hanging
June
my
17th.
head in shame.
It is June 17th, 8:41 p.m. Sorry for you guys. Okay, cool. Are we good on this then? Everyone understands the assignment? And if we can get this by Saturday, so I can, or ideally as soon as possible, so I can queue it up for Saturday, and then I still have to send out the other emails. So I got a lot of emails I got to send out this week. Mr. Dean had the bear email that I need to send out like ASAP, that I forgot about until just this moment, and then do the other stuff. So cool. No, Mr. Dean, you're doing more work. Are we good with this then? Everyone, any questions, comments, concerns, problems? Colonialism based? Awesome. All right, we're almost done here, guys. But good stuff. All right, the next item on the agenda, the 2024 LPCA in-person executive committee meeting. So Mr. Dean and I spoke earlier today. We're not going to have a motion ready to go, but we just want to touch base on where we are with this and what some of the options are. And isn't that the truth? Poor Mr. Sullivan. So yeah, Mr. Dean, go ahead and take it away. What did you discover?
Well, there's not an enormous amount to report just yet. I have feelers out to a couple of cool places in downtown Riverside that can potentially host us. I've heard back from one. I'm going to go and tour the facility tomorrow and chat with those guys. There are two places that I'm really eyeballing. The first is the Historic Mission Inn, which is in downtown Riverside, which you really have to see to believe. And if you haven't been there, you totally should. So if I can figure out how to swing a meeting room there, that would be great. I'm just waiting on their event people to get back to me. The second one is a block from the Mission Inn in the same sort of walking downtown area of Riverside. Is this little one of these sort of new age loft open concept marketing co-working space places that has done some stuff with libertarians before. They've hosted a Jeff Hewitt event. They're familiar with the party, and they've offered me a 20% discount. So yeah, that's right, Adrian. Save your thumb. There's a 20% discount involved there. So I'm gonna go and look at the facility tomorrow. I want to hear from the Mission Inn first, but just so that I've got the two of them. But yeah, I mean they're both right there. They're both downtown. Riverside's downtown is pretty cool, and with the idea that we meet from like 9 to 1-ish or so, just power through it, and then just hit a late lunch. That Mission Inn region, there's of course some high-end restaurants in and around the Mission Inn, but if you're going to come to Riverside, there is the funkiest taco stand you've ever seen right down the street, and we should totally all go there. So
I've seen some pretty funky taco
I actually
stands.
looked to see if this taco joint had a meeting room, because if they did, I would have totally booked it, but they don't. So
fair enough. Okay, so let's do this then. So as soon as you find that, if you want to email the private XCOM list, so it's offline, but like on the private list, and if they need a deposit, if it's within the realm that we discovered that this could be. So the meeting would be, we're looking at September, and just based on the dates that are allowable and all of that stuff. And then so he could, once those dates, and if they need, usually what happens is like once they try to lock it in so that they have it known ahead of time or whatever, we could informally authorize you to just make the deposit personally if you feel comfortable with that, and then at the next XCOM meeting we would just vote to reimburse you for the meeting space or whatever the case might be. But so long as everyone's understood that September works, we can pick out the weekend informally over the XCOM or in the chat or whatever, and then we can make the formal motion at the next XCOM meeting so that everything is settled and ready to go. And then okay, first of all, look, normally I would agree with you, okay, but I have been in bloody New Mexico for a week. It is literally worse than old Mexico, okay? I would rather go to the land of my people, because it has not been less than 100 freaking degrees here in New Mexico. So there is no place hotter. This whole state is a monument to man's arrogance, okay? It should not exist. It is not okay. The elevation, the heat. I had to buy sunscreen for the first time in my life. I don't like it. I don't. I'm brown, like I'm actually brown. Like people like don't even think that I'm white anymore. A lot of things are going wrong here. I don't like it.
You can't pass anymore.
So I no longer have white street cred despite my Britishisms, and I don't like it. So yeah, Riverside is a cakewalk compared to what I've had to deal with the last the last week in a couple of days or whatever. So okay,
We're
so
gonna
long as
see
we're
Adrian
set
at the
there.
next meeting, and he's gonna look African American. He's just gonna be so dark.
Diversity higher. So I mean, to make
You are now not browner. I mean, less brown than Emily. I think you could be Emily now.
Can I? I'm okay with that. No, I'm not okay with that. So Miss Halsey made a good point. I do like the idea of being able to do a free event up in the north. And we can just, based on the costs and stuff, we can hammer this out. My only reservation with that is I don't want to do 2 events back to back in the north. If the convention is going to be in the Bay Area and it's going to be right here, I'd hate to make everyone drive up twice. I think it's kind of good to spread it out and do that stuff. And especially since we have some candidates running like Mr. Schwartz, who's down there. If he's able to make the trip to Riverside, we can make it like an all-encompassing event. I'm sure I'm not going to be more endeared by the Riverside people that don't care for me, but we can do something like that. As long as this taco truck has alcohol or there's alcohol down there, I'll go anywhere. It's fine. But yeah, so let's go ahead and do. So if Mr. Dean, once he gets those quotes and all that stuff, we can informally decide on dates and all of that, so that when we come to the next meeting, everything is set in stone, so long as people understand that as of right now, we're looking at September and all of that, that kind of stuff. The chats are out of control. You're all getting out of control. You're all getting out of hand. And if you don't know what that means, it's because you're not on the LNC and you're not cool. All right. Anything else on this topic? Cool. Moving on to the convention location. So Mr. Cardin gave me some suggestions for Vallejo. He was looking at some places. He does have a background in hotel management and experience and all that kind of stuff. Hotel hospitality, that's what the word is. Sorry, it's late for me. And I've been looking at some places, but I did have to put that on hold while I was here in New Mexico. I did tag in the Region 4 rep to look at some places here in the Bay Area. As I mentioned before, this is going to be a bare bones convention. I think that everything I wrote in the convention committee report, I plan to hold true. We don't have a convention committee chair, so I by default will do it unless someone is willing to step up. But this is going to be very, very, very bare bones. It's going to be a place for us to do business, very minimal AV, and we're just going to obviously fly out our parliamentarian and stuff, but I'm not worried about speakers. I'm not worrying about whatever. We're going to, yes, as Ms. Stump said, hold the auction during business, during dead times in business and stuff. So we may not even need a gala where we need to do, although everyone can fend for themselves for dinner and do stuff like that. I'm just really tired of, I've done this for the last 2 years, and then I obviously did it as COC chair for a while. In addition to so there are a lot of ways that we can make money without breaking the bank and not holding everyone hostage to you have to have this hotel food dinner or you have to have dinner here or whatever. We can do it during business, and then we can even go, if business extends, whatever. We extend it till 6, we do whatever, we knock it out, and then we can move on with whatever. And again, the rationale behind all this is that Mr. Mapstead decided to host his family reunion at our convention and completely screw up the way that these bylaws were being presented and proposed that everyone worked really hard on to make this more feasible, to be able to do candidate trainings and do all this stuff so we could split up business, not have it 2 days, but have it one of training and all this other stuff for not just candidates, but for people trying to build their affiliates and whatever. So I'm not really interested in the pomp and circumstance on any off year. This is something that can be handled during the presidential year. I want people to understand and see that if no one's willing to step up and do the work, and I don't mean you guys, you're on the executive committee, you're serving, but I mean the people that we always hear bitch and moan about specific things, that they don't get this, they don't get that, they're always going to find something to complain about. So this time they can complain about nothing. We're going to be the Seinfeld convention this year. It's going to be a convention about nothing except for business. And then everyone can do their own thing and hang out with whoever they want, and we don't have to worry about people being upset that the food isn't up to par or having to sell tickets at the very last minute to make sure that we break even or make money on certain events, having to fly speakers out to do X, Y, or Z. It's going to be fun. So I want to try this. I don't think it's been done before where we do a bare bones convention. It's always been this, we have to put on a show for the membership. And my question is why? If no one's going to do this effort and everyone's going to complain and do whatever, and they had their chance to do it the way, to try something new and make sure that it was everyone's bang for their buck as far as trainings and all this stuff was concerned, and they rejected it, then so be it. We can do this, and then maybe people will appreciate all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, this is all because I did have Dave Smith. I did have him booked, but he was unable to attend because reasons is what I'm told. So that's really at the crux of this whole thing. Maybe we'll get some bigger names out here that'll be willing to come out for free. The great Joe Jorgensen, all the people that we normally get, whatever. But we can. I'm not opposed if people want to throw stuff at me to do, as long as it doesn't cost money. My focus this time around is going to be business. And that's it. All the pomp and circumstance stuff, I don't really care about. We can make money, as Ms. Stump said, auction during I think Arizona did something like this. I could be misremembering, but I know a few states do something like that where during dead times, they will auction off stuff and do whatever. You have everyone in the room. It's going to be better. I like Mr. Dean's idea, which Ms. Stump had mentioned before, about doing the silent auction and doing the whole thing. So I don't like Ms. Stump. Okay, so she had a good winner and then she had the worst idea I've ever heard of. Okay, so she's 1 for 1. That's fine. Mr. Ogle will not be a speaker although only if he reads that speech that he read to the now LNC chair at the convention in Reno. That was something special for those of you that remember. So I'm just going to go for the cheapest option. Mr. Cardin had that suggestion, so I'm going to look into that. The minute that I get back, Looks like I should be back on Thursday. Next Thursday, we can start working on this, and I'd like to have a proposal ready to go. The parliamentarian can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're only required to give 90 days notice to the membership on convention for like a date and a place. I'm putting her on the spot. I think it's 90 days notice, but I'm not 100% sure. So we still have time, and if we're not selling tickets and doing the whole thing, all we have to do is have a website up with like, register here, here's where it is, get a hotel room or don't, I don't care.
It's 120 days.
Oh, is it 120 days? Oh crap. So when's the deadline for that then? Who wants to do math?
Oh God, not me.
That's going to be in yeah, it's
So we
4
have to
months
announce
in October.
August? Oh,
One
so
in
it'd be October.
February, it's got to be in like August.
Okay, so we still have a little bit of time. So 120 days from February, but we don't have to have it in February. We just
Mid-October.
traditionally have it in February.
Mid-October.
Mid-October. I'm getting different. We're all
Don't
bad
ask
at
me
math.
about math. You know that, dude.
Well, if you type in 120 days before and then throw in your February date, if we're doing it President's Day weekend, I just threw in February 14th on a lark, and it gave me October 15th as the 120 days.
Okay, so we still have a little bit of time. So okay, that's fine. Hopefully, I'll have a proposal by the July meeting that we can stomach, and we'll do the minimal amount there, and then the other costs will. I don't believe that those gentlemen that we used last time are going to be available because they're just strictly Southern California. So I'll connect with Mr. Hagai and some other connections here in the Bay Area to just get minimal stuff. Maybe we'll do something fun on Saturday night and do kind of just like a regular party that doesn't have to be formal and just for people to hang out and stuff with a minor admission fee. And I'll sort that out when that time comes, but I'm just not going to put that much money. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. We'll see how that works out, but we already kind of informally decided the Bay Area, so I'll be looking at the cheapest place that can accommodate most of us. It'll be a smaller convention, I imagine, than it was for Southern California. So we will try to get something in the books by July 15th or whenever that meeting is, if not by August at the latest, because if we have until mid-October, then we're good to go. So I think that's what Mr. Cardin had suggested, a VFW hall somewhere in Vallejo, which seemed like it would be a good fit and everything. So, and as Mr. Harwig pointed out last time, most people, they'll stay at the room rate or do whatever out of convenience. But if there's no 7 a.m. breakfast and there's no whatever, most people will just migrate to the lowest, whatever the cheapest option is. Like, I mean, here in New Mexico, I'm staying in Murderville to save the LNC money. There are literally people doing meth outside right now. So, whatever. Cool. Anything, and this is all close to the Oakland airport. And if people want to save a little bit of money, it's SFO, whatever, it's the same difference. So, or we can use, Miss Hallisey, can we use your mom's house for convention? We only need probably seating for about 150 people. That's not a lot. She can accommodate that, right? Deafening silence. I don't think she's down. Honestly, we should. I can't, it can't get worse for me. I've been outside for the last freaking 6 days. That's fine. You're all getting out of hand. All right. So if there's nothing else, just a quick reminder. So we will do our next virtual executive committee meeting on Monday, July 15th at 7 p.m. That is our standing one. Is there any new business?
Hey, could I quickly
I have a quick
congratulate?
comment.
Oh, wait, we'll do Mr. Alstead first and then Mr. Dean.
I'd like to congratulate our parliamentarian on her appearance on the Tim Pool show. Debating Jeffrey Kaufman, which sounds like
Jeremy Kaufman. Did you say Jeffrey?
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Some Jewish first name. They're all the same.
It wasn't even like a debate. It was just bizarre when I got called a communist. That was the best part.
So no spoilers. So please do congratulate her. I have not had the opportunity to watch it yet. I have it queued up. I've been busy collecting signatures and doing the whole bit. I do have it queued up as soon as I have an evening free when I get back to my room. I do plan to watch. I believe it's about 2 hours. Is that correct?
Yeah, but Poole and Jeremy were having a bit of a bromance going on there, but apparently Tim thinks it's commie to be opposed to tax dollars being used to paint pride flags on the sidewalk. He called me a commie for being opposed to that. That was
Well,
like,
you are a commie, but not for that reason.
not for
If
that
someone
reason.
so for anyone, if the vice chair, if the parliamentarian wants to drop the link in the chat here, I don't have it readily available. It's saved on my phone. But if someone wants to drop the link in there for those that didn't get a chance or were unaware that the great Karen Ann Harlos was on Beanie Cast.
Yeah, but it wasn't
So-
on IRL. So it was on Culture War, which is like the smaller of your
their
shows.
backup one.
Yeah.
But
For
you had
women,
you
that's
had
fine.
you had the best line though. I guess I won't
Which
spoil it
one
for
was
you.
Yeah,
that?
don't spoil. No, don't spoil it. Don't
What, the
spoil it.
popping
I
out
wanna-
of a vagina? That one?
Damn it!
No.
I just said
No.
don't spoil it.
No, I want to know which one he thinks.
Message her
send it-
directly.
I'll
Message her
message you
directly.
directly.
Yeah, PM her. I don't want to see it. I want to laugh and I want to guess which one what the line is.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
For the record, I just want to say that initially I was invited, but then they had to settle for Miss Harlos because I was not available. So they wanted,
Well,
you
they
know, they
found
wanted
out
the
you were
A.
Mexican, and they're like,
They-
"Nah, man."
They wanted the A celebrity, but they settled for the D, emphasis on the D celebrity. So that's where we are.
But
right
Gary,
now.
I forgot I said that. That was pretty good. I need to clip that out and just have that just as a clip.
Yeah, that was the
No, I really-
that was a laugh out loud moment for me. That was
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna watch this whole show and guess every time, but no one spoil it for me. I do plan to watch it this week.
I completely
But
forgot
this
about that. But
this drive is priority.
Jeremy arguing that, oh my God, he just says things to be inflammatory. You know, Jeremy's like, oh, I practice eugenics. And everyone's like looking at him like, what the hell, dude? And he's like, well, you know, I married my wife for children because I thought she'd be like a good mate and produce good children. It's like, eugenics isn't saying that you didn't marry some ugly, unattractive troll. I mean, that's not eugenics. He just tries to say stuff.
I will say, I had my come to Jesus moment at convention when I had a good 2 to 3 hour conversation with Jeremy Kaufman, and he mentioned to me that some of my tweets make him uncomfortable, and it really made me. I had to look at myself in the mirror and kind of question my life choices. And then he tried to take it back and say, "That's not what I meant." I was like, "No, you can't take it back. You said it, and now it lives in my head forever." So if I have made Jeremy Kaufman uncomfortable, I'm either the most based human being that's ever existed, or there is a special place in hell for me, and I don't know which one it is yet. I guess we'll find out
could be both.
soon enough. It could be both. It could be both. That is true. So yeah, no spoilers. I do want to see this, and we will. No, don't tell me. We're all gonna find out together. But Mr. Dean, what did you have that you wanted to add that was potentially new business? Actually new business.
I don't know if I missed it or if it's in my spam folder somewhere, but have we sent something out looking to one of those quickie, cool sort of novelty fundraiser emails about the Bear Flag Revolt?
I didn't get it. If you want to forward that to the XCOM private list, that would be great.
Okay. I mean, I don't know who sends those out, but we should probably get something out like soon.
No, I think yeah. If something hasn't come out, can you remind me by Thursday? I need to get that out. I've been every time I get to my room, it's like really late. I have to work on stuff, and then I go to sleep. So
Okay.
I do need to get better about. I need to just queue it up and have it ready to go.
All right, cool.
So, but yeah, I agree. We need to do it immediately. The only other thing I'll add really quick things here while we wrap up. The lawsuit against the two-party system has not gone through yet. There was a minor snag. I got an email from the lead attorney on that from Judicial Watch. He's waiting on one item, I believe, before he officially files. There was a minor hiccup. So we're still waiting on that. There was one more thing that I was going to bring up. It was just, I think it was that and something else that that escapes me at the moment. But all of that is still going through. We just have to wait it out and see where we are with it. And I'll keep you guys posted offline as we get there. Oh, legislative committee. So Mr. Cardin and is it Michael Noguera? Miguel Noguera? The former chair of Merced County. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name right now. Worked on the Defend the Guard thing with Dan McKnight here for California. So with working with the legislative committee, hopefully we'll have something to work on. June Genus from Santa Clara County also is keeping up to date on some stuff that's being proposed in the legislature that she's sending to the legislative committee so they can kind of pick and choose what they want to allocate their time for. Obviously, the things that are higher, not just necessarily higher priority, but would be higher priority due to the likelihood that it could actually pass and make some sort of, oh, maybe I'm sorry, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's, I think I just associated her with Santa Clara County incorrectly. So I'm sorry, apologies. So she probably is from Riverside County. So she's been sending those emails and I'll be forwarding them to legislative committee. If you don't, again, if you have a passion for some of this stuff, even if you don't want to officially be on the committee, that's fine. If any of this fascinates you, if you want to work on the Defend the Guard stuff, any other legislative stuff, I can just throw you on the email group informally to be part of the legislative committee and have some input and all of this other stuff. If anyone wants to be part of the Pro-Rep Coalition, Mr. Strachan has been doing a good job going to the meetings and keeping up with the emails for that. I have not been able to attend a meeting in quite some time, but that is still underway. And we are trying to see what's going on. I've met some other people while I'm here in New Mexico that are doing petitioning for the Green Party and the Independent Party. So Kennedy's campaign and Jill Stein's campaign about some of that stuff. And they've heard about it and they're kind of excited about all of the alternative parties kind of banding together on what we agree on against the legacy parties. I refuse to use duopoly because I'm not a boomer. So they raised a lot of money. So now the guy that reached out to us initially is now their executive director and he's paid and he's doing this as a full-time gig. So they must be doing something right, which is right. Yes, Mr. Calvin Myers. So they must be doing something right, which is great. And I don't know what'll come of it. Again, we're still kind of in the beginning phases of all that, but we'll see. Very cool. Anything else for new business? Sweet. We're only 5 minutes over time. That's not bad. I got a lot done. All right. I think everyone were there any action items from the last meeting? I don't think so, because it was a very short one. It was just the one where we formed the IC. Oh, so I guess while we're on action items, I guess I'll just ask really quickly. Does the IC, I will ask outside of executive session, whatever you can share, how is the IC going? Do you have a time frame? Have interviews been conducted? How do we feel about the time frame here?
Yeah, we've conducted a couple of interviews. The bulk of them are going to be done tomorrow. Just in one 15-minute slots, like 5 or 6 in a row.
Okay.
We'll see where that goes, and we may or may not be done with the interviews after that. We'll see what the people say.
Have you been in communication with Mr. Jonathan Jacobs for any questions that you may have or that may arise about the process?
We have not.
Okay. I would recommend just touching base with him and keeping him apprised of any situation that is appropriate just for procedural purposes.
We did talk to him right after the last meeting, by the way.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I remember you guys stayed on. I passed the hosting duties to the vice chair. Oh. Okay. Fantastic. So if you want to get into specifics about certain things before you file an official report, just email it to the private executive committee list and just put, in brackets confidential so that everyone understands that it would fall under the purview of executive session and everyone understands what's going on. Anything that you feel is appropriate at this time to share, feel free to do so. If you're not there yet, that's fine too. Just wanted to kind of get a time frame to see what we're looking at here. But it looks like you guys are doing your job and it's going swimmingly. So fantastic. Alrighty. On to the last item of the agenda. Who would like to do the honors?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Strachan has moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Again,
Seconded by Mr. Dean. Beat Ms. Stump by half a second. This is a non-debatable motion. We will move to a vote. Is there any objection to adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 9:08 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you, everyone. I have to, oh, give me just a moment. Sorry, let me end the recording here.